welcome to this week's Euromoney live stream. It's the first in our series of live streams that is focusing on the Saudi housing and housing finance industry. I'm very pleased to be able to welcome today as our first keynote interviewee, none other than His Excellency Mr. Majed Al-Hogail, who is Minister of Housing for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Your Excellency, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Euromoney live stream.
Good afternoon. Happy to be with you again.
I wish we could be there in person in Riyadh. We were just talking about that. Maybe January. Minister, you've been minister now for a few years, but before that, and when we first met, you worked in the private sector. How does it feel now that you're embedded as a minister? Is it different? Are you used to it?
Yes, it's good to be in two different positions. One of them as in the private sector, who looks how to improve his process, business, the ecosystem, etc., and looking at it from a different way, which is profitability and branding, better service. How can I give different product, unique selling proposition? So all the commercial words, terms, you focus on it. When you come government, you want to see more different pictures about the GDP growth. You want to see the citizen and expat who's living in this country, how they can get better product at a fair value. How can we improve the participation of private sector? How can we help in the regulation? So it's a different view you look at it to do. But at the end, the more you learn in the private sector, the more you learn about the challenges that face the private sector, and that make you look to it from a different perspective, which help the private sector.
Well, I think it's great that the government is bringing in so many private sector people to senior levels. It's really very important. Let's turn to the first of our questions today. Housing is a key pillar of the Saudi Vision 2030 program. Why is it so important to that program?
As you know, housing is a very vital sector that affects the whole national economy as well as Saudi family stability. If we look to the Vision 2030, which focus on three primary themes, one of them is a vibrant society. And under vibrant society was how to enable Saudi to own. And one of these assets is the home itself. So from structure-wise, Vision 2030, from the importance of the sector itself in the economy and the Saudi stability, that makes the whole program is a priority. And that's why we have a housing program very specific compared to the 13 program, which is collectively horizontal and vertical relationship to do that. So when we look at from a target, government has part of the reform was to speed up the ownership to be within top G20, and that's put us a lot of pressure because the market is growing 2.3% neutral. So if you do nothing, you lose 2.3% ownership. So you need to stabilize this percentage, and you add another 2%. So we need to grow faster than the market demand itself, and that's why it becomes a program that has to be enabled and to make Saudi enable and help them to achieve that. Not only that, as you know, housing program usually helping more than 120 sector. When you build home, you need a consultant, you need engineering consultant, you need a contractor, you need a building material, you need the furniture, you need a home appliance, etc. So the more homes you build, the more the economy move to that, which has helped us in terms of improving growing the GDP of Saudi in general. So that's why housing is a key pillar of Vision 2030.
Thank you. I mean, yes, the economic multiplier effect of the housing sector is tremendously important. The ministry and of course our partners, the Real Estate Development Fund, have been involved in issuing more than 340,000 subsidized mortgages during the last 3 years, and nearly half of them, about 160,000 or so of them, during 2020. So that's a rate, you know, it's growing, that market, the subsidized market, mortgage market is growing. Why is there a justification for this increase, especially in light of this year's economic challenges?
You know, there is different factors. You are familiar with Saudi market mortgage. In 2018, average mortgage per year was 20,000 contract. So that's a signal of this product was not a priority for banks, was not even in the growth strategy of any banks. If you visit any banks to growth strategy, what we have done, part of the reform, is to give a focus why banks is not focused on the mortgage industry itself. So we have invested heavily last 2.5 years to make sure that this product available. So what we have done, first, we understood that time the bank have no much of experience of the behavior of the mortgage. We know that the banks worried about the foreclosure process. We know that the securitization market or the ecosystem of the housing mortgage is not yet mature. So what we have done, we focus on first segmentation wise. Before, banks was looking to a segment income and focus on it. So we wider the segment. Second, geographic was focused more on the big 5 cities. We were going more to the 13 region in Saudi Arabia and provide them with all processes and how to mitigate the risk in this region. The third is the product was focused on only one product, which is ready unit home. We focus, we encourage financing the self-construction and the off-plan sales products. So finally, we securitization itself with SRC that helps us also to have that. So banks during 2018-19 was building capacity. So they grow significant in 2019, and we see the impact of it in 2020, because now the maturity of the product of mortgage becomes much mature, as well becomes part of their main strategy. I am sure you meet a lot of chairmen and CEOs in Saudi banks, and if you ask them what's the driver of your growth, they will say mortgage becomes one. If it's not the first, it will be the second growth driver in the market.
Thank you. There's a lot there, and we'll be talking about each of these things in detail as we go through our Saudi real estate theory.
To add, not to forget also with the maturity, the competition increase, SRC play big roles. Saudi refinance company for long-term fixed rate to introduce. So you have now the product 25 years at a competitive rate. So if I give you one example, in 2018, I remember that the long-term fixed rate, because the market was not mature in terms of long-term fixed rate. So the rate was like 200 basis points more than what we have today. So this helped to make more affordable loans to Saudi citizens, and that's also helped a lot. So now we are 200 basis points lower. Yes, for sure, the stability of long-term rates in the world was almost stabilized and is very competitive. But as a product now is available in Saudi Arabia, that helps a lot to make the rate is affordable, and that's helped a lot to have more Saudi accessing to the capital aggressive.
And the SRC bought a large mortgage portfolio from the Public Pension Agency in July, I think it was. So, I mean, it's really getting some traction now, the SRC.
True. Actually, 2019, 2020, banks was building asset portfolio. I think now with the SRC offering more products in the market, you see BPA is selling more than 3.3 billion Saudi Riyal portfolios, and we see now big corporate are coming also in their housing program to sell their portfolios as well. Now banks are in part of their growth because of some restriction in the CAR ratios, some liabilities, they need to offload some of their portfolios, and this RC now is ready more to take more to help the market to continue growth.
Yeah, it's a very, very important institution, and we'll be interviewing Fabrice from the SRC in a future episode. Minister, we touched on it very lightly at the beginning, your private sector background, but one of the fundamental differences between the housing strategy of today in the Kingdom and how it was, say, 5 years ago or before Vision 2030 is the pivotal role that the private sector plays in your strategy. Could you just talk perhaps a little bit about why you're involving the private sector so much, what it does, not just the banks, but others, the developers, and the scale of that relationship?
Let me just first say what was our strategy. Was strategy built on 4 pillars. One, how can we help to supply affordable supply homes to the market? The second one was how to help people accessing finance. So we unlock the demand. The third one, regulation and policy. How can we improve the ecosystem of housing in Saudi Arabia through regulation and policy? The fourth one was how we could improve the customer journey. So these are the main 4 strategy that we worked from day one on these pillars. So the driver of that is the private sector, because the size or the target we have made is quite significant, and we cannot do it as a government to be the main player to do that. So we understand the needs of the private sector role and how they could help us to do that, and we trust their capabilities and ability to do that. I just explained to you how we worked it with the banks, and that now we see the impact of that. More than 340 loans has been provided by the private sector. Yes, it's subsidized by the government interest, but actually the building the capacity and the growth was helping that in the second strategy pillar. And the first strategy pillar was the how we can have affordable supply. You know, at the end, if you could, the problem of Saudi market at the beginning was not about building capacity. Usually Saudi develop between 350 to 400,000 homes every year. So it's not about the supply itself, it's about the affordable supply. So how can we ensure that the product price or the product is meeting the affordability to do that? We have developed, because we believe in that, we have developed the first to develop, sorry, to create more than a local developer, Saudi, and even invited the international developer. Now we have more than 250 developer has registered in our WAFI, the off-plan system. We have more than 80 project with 70 developer that they develop more than 135,000 units now under sales. And the good things, the average price of these homes between 250,000 and 750,000, which meet more than 80% of Saudi segmentation demand. And they use a different technology. They are innovating this business. They come up with a different way of construction method, which helps to speed up the process. And they develop their the supply chain from sourcing the materials to constructing the materials until they end the product. And the beauty also, they are developing communities, which is our main driver of the program, is not the house itself, but the community itself, where people live, where people communicate, where people enjoy. And this has been reflected very positive in our market.
I think because a lot of our viewers are internationals, they're not people from Saudi or the region. I think an important point to make is, of course, that the demand for housing in Saudi Arabia comes from Saudis. It's not a speculative, it's not an asset-driven market. It's very much of a demand-driven market, driven by the size, growth rate, and demographic structure of your population. Isn't that correct?
Yes, but we are with the Vision 2030. We see now the tourism is coming, so we will see more of demand from tourism to own homes in the Red Sea or all the beautiful places in Saudi Arabia. So we're going to see a change of the character next 5 years. But currently, as you said, most of demand, most of the ownership, majority actually of it, more than 95% or 96% are Saudi, and majority is their first home buyer.
Yes. So, I mean, it's very much of a demand-driven market in the sense of people need somewhere to live because they don't have somewhere to live, rather than a second home or that. But we hope. I mean, I'm looking forward to buying my villa on the Red Sea in a few years' time.
Please.
It's very beautiful. I mean, I must admit, it's stunning.
Amazing. It's stunning. It's amazing. It's astonishing. When you go to Red Sea, yeah. It's a one of the beautiful places you can see in the world.
It's absolutely incredible. So turning from something amazing to something a little less amazing, of course, 2020 is going to be remembered for the rest of our lives as the year of the pandemic. How did your ministry continue to serve the many stakeholders that you have during the lockdown, and indeed since the lockdown has begun to ease?
First, I would thank the reform done in 2018 with the technology infrastructure. That's a key driver for dealing with the pandemic. In Saudi, we were having a very strong digital infrastructure that helped us actually not to feel the distance or the lockdown itself, which is lockdown. So the key driver to continue serving is the infrastructure, which is Saudi now is ranked as top 20 G20 in terms of that. The second is I mentioned in the fourth strategy is about the customer journey. So we invested since 2018 by developing an application called Sakani, which is you could you could get all your service. You could find the product from this application. You could have a real estate advisor to give you the best product, the best loan, and to do it. And even you could transact with the developer or with the banks. So that's a platform, or this foundation helped us. For sure, we were not able in March and April. We had a decline by average from 24,000 average monthly to 16,000. But it's great. You continue at least servicing people, not the number we targeted, but at least 16,000 per month was a quite good numbers for us to do that. So that's the key driver. We have some challenges in terms of delivery because material was quite difficult to be in the site, movement of engineer and constructing team in the site. So we noticed some delay on the project progress, and we are looking forward to see them with the recovery plan to do that. Not to forget also, SAMA, the central bank in Saudi, really helped us in improving improving the process itself. So there is certain process which is require physical transaction. They help us to either by improving or minimizing some process that you could have it in a digital to that. So the action from all, or the cooperation between all government entities was quite amazing during this pandemic. We worked very closely with each other. We shared the target. We were quite very efficient and effective to make a new process, review it with respect to all all rules and authorities requirement at that time.
What would you say are the lessons that you've learned from this experience in the last few months? I mean, it's new to us all, and I think that there are lessons there that we should look at. What's been your experience of the lessons learned?
Actually, I think we become more efficient. See where you are. Before to do that, you have to travel, you have to take plane, you have to come here, you have to drive from hotel to here. So there is a lot of time. Now you can just do, you stay with your family, you stay with your friends, and you do your business very efficient. You continue to deliver that, and that's what things that we were not even believe before we could reach that. So that's now the good side of it. Some learning also is about you start to become more efficient. Why that cannot be happen? So you always review the processes that you have, the challenges that before was not even thought of it. Now it becomes a reality. So you are much better in terms of designing and execution and implementation. So these, I think it's a good things that we have seen. And I think now our teams are always thinking, what if another pandemics could happen? We are more prepared now. Yes. For any disaster could happen, any things. Our now disaster recovery plan is working. We tested our disaster recovery plan, and we see it is working, huh? And that's a very good things. But actually, we were become very dynamic. To deal with the constraint, with any obstacle, we are more dynamic now. We are not limited with the only obstacle. We are always working with solution. So how can we continue service our customer, our citizen? How can we continue develop it? And there is a lot of now solution has been just introduced, was not there before the pandemic.
Yeah, I echo very much what you say. I mean, I'd love to be in Saudi. I'm very fond of your country. I have many friends there. But in order to have this discussion, it would have taken me 3 days, and I'm doing it from my study at home. So I see where you're coming from. One question that we get asked a lot at Euromoney, and indeed some of the other media that I've looked at, saying that one of the impacts of the pandemic on Saudi Arabia is that it's going to change the strategy of Vision 2030. It's going to alter what is done. Is that, will the pandemic change your strategy? What effect will it have on how you implement these 4 pillars?
Actually, because of we are working with the private sector, housing continue to be, we make the products very important for developer. We make it as a very important in their growth strategy of the banks. So the private sector now, I will consider myself as deepening the reform itself. The next 5 years, I think, will be more in deepening the reform by just improving the process itself. So none of the 4 strategy or 4 pillars are changed. The target continue to be the same. We now more confidence because the housing program subsidies or the cost of this program is longer than any other program. So we don't see any impact or any effect of the change. Actually, we see now with the lower interest rate, with the technology now has been developed and the demand of the supply, it will be a plus to our industry. And we are, hopefully we could continue with our target as we have done last 3 years.
My final question, Minister, because I know that you're a very busy man and have much to attend to. We've talked about the strategy. We talked about where you've come from in the last 3 years, and we've been working with you for that period, and it really is an impressive journey. What are your priorities till the end of this year, and perhaps more importantly, what do you want to achieve specifically in 2021?
As you are aware, and the first phase of the program was until 2020. So the first is how to close the first phase of this program. It's a 3 phases from up to 20. And we have another phase, which is start from 21 to 25. Then the last one will be 25 to 30, where we hopefully we get all our target in the Vision 2030, which 70% ownership for Saudi. My focus this next 3 months is how to ensure that the target achieved, and how to help the private sector their challenges with the pandemic. We know that for the developer there was a quite delay in their schedule. So how can we help them? How can we incentivize them, or how can we mitigate their risk? So we need to work with them closely to ensure their successful project to be completed on time. Also, banks, government has stepped in to help SME for rescheduling. So we want to be sure that all support goes to them to do it. And we are preparing for the second phase, which is 2025, which is, we call it deep the reform, and ensure the maturity side of it, and which is the third phase, which is going to go to financial sustainabilities on the housing program itself.
Well, Minister, as I said, time is always our enemy, and I'd like to draw it to a close there by thanking you very much for giving us your time today. It's been an illuminating interview. I'm very pleased and proud that we've been able to work with you and the REDF on the first phase, and we hope that that relationship continues into the future.
Thank you. Me too, and looking forward to see you physically.
Yeah, well, likewise, yeah. I mean, I genuinely am missing. I feel I need to be in the Gulf. It's the longest I haven't been in Saudi since 1998. Can you believe that?
Looking forward for that.
Thank you very much. To our viewers now, don't go away. We're continuing this broadcast with a more detailed and in-depth discussion with 2 of the deputy ministers from the Ministry of Housing, His Royal Highness Saud bin Talal Al Saud and Mr. Marwan Zawawi. We will be right back after this short break.